Thelema, Coast to Coast, show number 40, March 31st, 2007. Do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law. Welcome to Thelema Coast to Coast. My name is John Crow, and I'm the host of the show. Before getting into the show, I want to remind everyone there are a number of ways to contact the podcast. The first is via email at podcast@thelemacoasttocoast.com, through the website at www.thelemacoasttocoast.com, through the voicemail at 206-600-5782, through the mailing address at Thelema Coast to Coast, care of John Crow, P.O. Box 7045, Marietta, Georgia 30065. And through the MySpace page at www.myspace.com/Thelema Coast to Coast. And of course, there is the Frapper map that you can get to on the Thelema Coast to Coast website. It's got hundreds of people on it worldwide, and it's great to see, and I encourage everybody to get on that. And I want to thank everybody who's been sending in postcards. I've got a whole bunch of them, and I've responded to a number of them. I've still got a few more to respond to, and then I'll be getting those scanned up. I think I have about a dozen to put on the website, so thank you. A reminder to everyone that if you want a postcard, you need to include your mailing address. Some of the postcards just have emails on them or just even a thank you, but I need a mailing address to obviously send you the bumper stickers. And for those who don't know, if you send a postcard, any postcard to Thelema Coast to Coast, care of John Crow, P.O. Box 7045, Marietta, Georgia 30065 in the USA, then I will send you a Thelema Coast to Coast bumper sticker. And of no cost or anything, just for the postcard and the postage to send it to me. And then I scan them in and put them on the Thelema Coast to Coast website. I love the variety of cards I've gotten and the great well wishes and messages from everybody. So, the first thing I want to do is get into some of the voicemails and emails, because it's been a month or a little over a month since I've done a podcast. I've got a number of them. So I'm going to start with the voicemails first. The first one is from a listener named Brendan, and here is his voicemail.
Hey, John. Do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law. This is Brendan. I'm a long-time listener, as you probably know, and finally got a chance to give you a call. I'm also an OTO member. I've been a member for almost 10 years now. And I'm getting kind of frustrated with the inability of the OTO leadership to keep the Crowley text in print. I know this is something you've touched on tangentially in your show, so I was wondering if maybe you had an update in this area, or maybe I could just borrow your bully pulpit for a while and kind of give a little shout out to some of the OTO leadership and let them know how I feel about that. I heard a rumor today that some of the key texts like Magic Without Tears are going to be pulled from Hermetic.com. And as you know, Magic Without Tears is not in print anymore, and the most recent one that was in print that you can get for around $40 is the Regarity edited version. The original version is like hundreds and hundreds of dollars, if it's even available. And this isn't the only text that like this. I mean, the Equinox is not available, the Oriflame is not available. I'm curious why this is the case. In this day and age, with things like Lulu Press and on-demand printing available, for the price of a computer, which you can get for around $300 these days, and a copy of Adobe to make a PDF and a scanner, maybe call it $500, and some volunteer time, which I know the OTO has, because I volunteered a lot of time for them myself. You can get every single piece of Crowley material that we have on the internet available for someone to buy on an on-demand basis. And Lulu Press will do the hosting, so you don't even have to pay for that. So I don't get it. I just don't get it. And I'm sure there's a really good reason. I'd just like to hear it. So maybe you have an answer for me there, and maybe they can come on and give an answer. And, educate us as to why, if it won't cost them anything to host the material and make it available to the public, they can't manage to actually make this happen. So, thanks very much for letting me borrow your soapbox, and I'll leave another voicemail on something happier, I hope, in the future. Love is the law, love under will.
Brendan, thanks for sending that in. The fact that the Crowley books are going out of print, especially, as we've mentioned before, Magic Without Tears and so forth, it is very frustrating. As far as the Hermetic.com, it's important to note that was run by a gentleman who is no longer in the OTO and no longer considers himself a Thelemite. So he thought it was better if it was transferred to somebody. I got an email from him, and he told me that he is in the process, or at that time was in the process, I don't know if it's completed now, but was in the process of transferring Thelema Coast to Coast, of transferring Hermetic.com to somebody within the OTO, since it is the hosting provider of a number of OTO people. As for the removing of those documents, I don't know. He said that there was a number of documents that they said they might remove, but he did not know if that was going to happen. And the list was preliminary that he gave me, so it's nothing that I can repeat. It is disappointing that the OTO wants to remove the only source for these documents. However, I know a lot of people or a lot of websites have been out there copying the various documents from Hermetic.com, and if they're still there, I might advise everybody to get their own copies of Magic Without Tears, the commentaries, and so forth, because those are possibly going to be disappearing. As far as the Crowley books going out of print, yeah, that's also very disappointing. But I don't want to get into that too much because that is the main topic that Keith 418 and I talk about on this podcast. So I'll refer you to that and where we get into it in a little more in depth. So thanks for that voicemail. The next voicemail is from a Clinton. He sent a voicemail before about going to Finland and looking for the Finnish Liber All.
93. John, this is Clinton. I'm just following up on my last feedback note that I was looking for Book of the Law and Finnish for you, and as it turns out, you couldn't have put that note in a better podcast as a reminder to me, because when I came back from Finland nearly empty-handed, looked around on the internet and happened to find a translation on someone's website. So I emailed them and asked them about it, seeing if there was one in print anywhere. And they said that I couldn't have emailed them at a better time because they're getting ready to publish it for the first time. It should be out about the 20th of March, a few days from now. So, I emailed you all the information for the company putting it out and everything, and I think that would be a pretty good thing to put out on your Really You email list. So, there you are. Love is the law, love under will.
Clinton, thanks for the voicemail and thanks for looking. I do have that information that you sent me. I appreciate it. And it's not the most appropriate to put on the podcast, but what I am going to do is on the next Really mailing list thing that's going to be going out probably in the next week or so, I'll be including that information about how people can get a copy of the Finnish Liber All if they're interested. So thanks for sending that in, and thanks for getting that information. Okay, the next voicemail is a longer one. It's from Derek, and he wanted to respond to April's question and David Shoemaker's response about Jungian psychology. It looks like this thread has actually kind of piqued a lot of people's interest because there has been a number of emails about it too, which I'll be going into after this. So here's Derek's voicemail. It's about 5 minutes long. And in fact, it does get cut off at the end because Derek did hit the 5-minute limit on a voicemail. So it does stop abruptly. But that's just the voicemail that I got.
Hi, John. This is Derek from Phoenix, Arizona. I'm calling because I wanted to resurface a question raised by Amber in show 38 about the relevance of Carl Jung's work to magic. Dave Shoemaker, in response to her question, mentioned a couple general concepts of Jung and their relationship to magic, but it's such a fruitful area of study and praxis as well that I wanted to bring up a couple additional ideas that weren't explicitly mentioned. I personally feel that a study of Jung is indispensable to the practicing magician, not only for the personal psychological insight, but also, and maybe more so, for the exploration of the basic form and function of the psyche and its components. I think the key to correlating Jung and magic is really the psychology of the Kabbalah. As Dave mentioned, the ego-self axis that Jung writes about is basically the relationship with one's HGA. The Ruach represents the ego, which controls and directs and inhabits the Nefesh, which is, of course, the emotional, instinctual, astral body, which in turn animates the physical body. The fulfillment of the Ruach is basically the descent of the angel, the descent of the Briatic intelligence, which allows the Ruach to directly communicate with the supernal principles, the Neshama, Kia, and Yakida, just as the Nefesh allows the Ruach to experience the physical world. To put that into kind of Jungian terms, with a little spin, granted, the Neshama it corresponds to the formative principle, the Anima principle, or female principle, while the Kia is the causal male Animus principle. The Yakida would be the true self, the divine spark, the kind of tether principle. The attainment of the adept is basically described by Jung as what he calls individuation, which is basically the integration of the conscious mind, the Ruach, with both the higher unconscious, the realm of the archetypes, again, what Dave mentioned, the world of absolutes, as well as the lower unconscious, or the world of Yetzirah. So Jung's work is quite literally at the heart of the Western esoteric tradition. I think a few of his books should be required reading for any magician, any serious magician. Mysterium Conjunctionis, Psychology and Alchemy, and Structure and Dynamics of the Psyche, to name a few, that probably have the most direct bearing on magic. But in the same token, Jung was approaching the great work from the realm of psychology. So as anyone reads those works, there do turn up apparent incongruities between his findings and his methodology and ours, but really further meditation on that is really fruitful ground for more insight. One last thing, aside from Jung's own works, I can't recommend highly enough the Magical Philosophy series of books by Melita Denning and Osborne Phillips. To anyone interested specifically in this topic, or magic in general, Volume 2 of that series, The Sword and the Serpent, talks about this in great detail, these concepts of Jungian psychology and their relationship to magic. The authors of the book were practitioners of the Ogdoadic system of magic. Actually, you previously interviewed someone some time ago, Joseph Amara, from the Ordo Astrum Sophia, which is also in that same tradition of